Hey class, we're going to talk about the last project you're going to be doing, a personal logo of your own design. It's like a trademark for yourself or a business of your choice. It's an interesting project because it brings together a lot of the different projects, ideas we've been doing in other projects because we're going to use, line, balance, focal point, texture, a lot of different things could tie into this logo, so I really like it. So like all your projects so far, you have sort of a process by which you're going through the design with research, idea generation, developing a concept, and then proposal. This would be actually really very often happening in the world of logo design and branding, okay, which is what this would be as a logo. You have your research with small sketches and looking up information, thinking about what's out there already, a little bit of research. You have small little diagrams. Maybe these are like thumbnail sketches, getting into things that are more rough, but still kind of getting clearer. Then you're refining the sketches to get something really close before you get something that's your final rendering. Okay? Refined fully. So what I have you do is fill out a questionnaire as part of your discovery. Discovery would be a word they would use in the design industry. Like my wife is a web designer. She has this with her different clients when they're figuring out what they want, what they need from their project. And so you're going to be your own client, so to speak. You could pick a client if you have someone you know who needs a logo, but you're going to want to do discovery process. And so on the portal Canvas, inside the module about logo, I have something that's called questionnaire. And you can print it out if you want, but you don't have to. What you do is just look at it and answer the questions about yourself as a way to kind of get your brain rolling and thinking about what you might want to do something about. Then I have you do some brainstorming on the back of that sheet usually, but you can do it on any paper. I especially like to use a mind map, which is this type of brainstorming where you take and you put something in the middle, like whatever your topic is, like yourself, and then from there you go and you go, okay, what are the things about me that I could put on there? What could I write about myself? You have a lot of different options. You could say me. Yep. You could say yourself, me in the middle. Why is it not working? Oh well, okay. And then you say, I like art. Okay, yes. I like to watch baseball. I want to be a graphic designer or a photographer or illustrator or a nurse or own my own construction company. I like the color blue. My initials are this. You go around and you start filling those things in, right? And what you do with that is after you get to a certain point, you start getting off on different areas like, okay, okay, let's investigate the idea that I like baseball a little bit more, for example. Come on, computer. Well, you could go in here and say, this isn't working for me, I'm sorry. We'll just exit this. And you could say, I like baseball, and you say, okay, what I like about it: community, family. I used to play it. I was a referee. That might end up informing your logo a lot if you want something to do with baseball, or you want to start a business with it, or something like that. Okay, I'm getting in the weeds here a little bit. I think you get the idea. Get a really comprehensive mind map about things, and at the end of it, try to get to things that are very specific, like a color, imagery things like eggs, a circle, a baseball bat, baseball, Family, what does family actually look like? Start to actually have some things that you put on there, like, you know, it looks like hugging, it looks like marriage, it looks like, the type of family you have, it looks like eating dinner together, it looks like eating pot roast, it looks like Thanksgiving, it looks like going on a trip, it looks like all the number of things you do. It looks like traveling to another country together. It looks like going to the river. It looks like yada yada. But you have specific imagery that's associated with those things, like food, water, a place, a flag of a place you go to, all the different specific things. That way you have imagery to use. Out of that imagery, you start to have what we call small little thumbnails where you think with your pen or pencil on the paper. Why do I say that? Because I don't just want you to say, oh, this idea. I want you to start to draw little things. This is from a book about logos. And then this logo, someone was trying to design in the book a logo for a church. So they just quickly started drawing little things. These are like notational sketches here. Rough, not even roughs yet. If you want to do a bunch of those, I say at least 10, but honestly, you want to do way more than 10. 10's a bare minimum. Really, I just say that so you at least do more than one or two. Then you're going to take those thumbnails that should be like this type of level of detail, something that works, and build them into more refined things. Things that are getting closer. Take one of those, take a couple of them that you like especially, and start to do variations of it. Refine it. Change it up. If it's not working, go back to another one and try to refine that one. But don't just draw the same thing over and over again. Refine it, try different variations, see what works and doesn't work. Then come up with something that's a little bit closer to it. These are a bit more refined. They're really simple. This is kind of cheesy, electricity. It's for a church called 10th Avenue or something. So they didn't really show us the roughs in the book, but this is the final design they came up with. Do I love it? Simple, but a lot of behind the scenes effort. It didn't love it, but it's okay. And they understood it instinctively, is what I said, intuitively, because it's the idea of a cross, but also connection, a bridge, sort of like a feeling of the place. I wish it was not all uppercase. I wish it was sentence case. This is sentence case, but it works. So this is just a quick little example. Now we're going to look at, this is the process you're going to be going through, okay? So you're doing the questionnaire, you're doing some brainstorming, you're doing quick notational thumbnail sketches, then you're doing more refined thumbnail sketches, then you're getting into something that's a rough. These are not good roughs for this project, but it was a good example. You want them to be a little bit more clear and bigger and with more detail, and then you're going to have the final one that you ink. Even up to the point of the roughs, you might want to change a few little things and do 5 variations, 3, 6, 7, 10, 20 variations. Probably won't do 20, but at least a few variations of the same idea, not just completely different ideas. Like take one that has the same idea with a bridge and connection and do like a multiple versions using that idea before you get to your final. Let's look at some logos that are well known and dissect them a little bit to help you think about what it is. So FedEx, we all know it everywhere. Deceptively simple logo, but this negative space here is an arrow. And so it works very well for them because it's like the idea of moving things around the world, shipping, making things go places. It has a sort of rhythm to it. It's always 2 colors. It feels packed together, like it's nicely packed, like you want things to be shipped. Very well engineered or designed is a better word, typography for this to create that. And it's using their word, Federal Express, but they make it short and recognizable, FedEx, instead of Federal Express, which is a really long name. They made it quick, recognizable, easy, and they use different colors with it, right? They use the green and different things, and it works with lots of colors. So negative space is an important thing to think about. I'm going to show you a couple examples that have negative space, okay? Now, here's one using the peacock idea, of the NBC logo. Why does this work so well? Because it's like a film strip, right? National Broadcasting Corporation, NBC. They have a quick little, all the letters of the first name of an acronym, NBC. And they have this idea of film, color film, and the way it goes in frames and exposure. Also, there's the idea of a peacock being something that shows itself off. It's flashy. Does it work perfectly peacock? No, but I think it's their identity. They're branding it that way. It makes sense and it's interesting to look at. It also being negative space makes you think about the way films are and color film. So it works pretty well. It's been around for a really long time. And it's very recognizable with the NBC. So it's very iconic. This is one for a book, Moby Dick, which you probably heard about, Herman Melville's book, where there's a white whale he's chasing. So the M, the spear, and the whale tail are working here. It's for just like a quick monogram in it, and it works pretty well. I think this is the type of thing with negative space black and white that can be really simple, but really work in a very interesting way because your logo is going to be black and white. Another one using negative space, very basic, maybe a little bit too, but like obvious to do a nib and a spoon, but it's very interesting. And I think, again, I wish they would have used some sentence case. It's more legible. If you notice, like when you look at freeway signs and street signs, they never use all caps because it's easier to misread. So think about what the case of your typography is, if it's uppercase, lowercase, if it's just all caps, if it's all lowercase. Those are the kind of things you're going to want to think about. But it works pretty well. IBM, old logo, pretty classic computer, right? Why does it work? Well, the blue. But also old printers used to go this way. And it gives you a binary, on, off, which is what computers are based off of. Probably could use an update, to be honest with you, maybe a rebrand, but it works pretty well. And it has a feeling of blue is a color of solidity, calm, and stableness. So they're kind of playing with that too here. This logo I show because it doesn't necessarily work very well. And I like to show things that work and things that don't work. It's iconic and you can understand it pretty quick and recognize it really well. But bass or bass, people would say, which way do you say it, bass or bass, is, because it could be a guitar, a beer brand. And so this is a kind of got something maybe of a mountain going on and fresh water, but it's red. And it's legible script and it's kind of, dynamic and feels like fun, but you can't really tell what this is about. In a way, it's like so generic, you can't really tell what it's dealing with. There's almost like two I's in the S's, but it's kind of funny. Nothing quite makes like a specific feeling. It's just more symbolic. There's not too much of a connection to the actual brand and what it's selling. And so for me, this is like, okay, it works as something recognizable. It doesn't work as maybe being as more nuanced in its connection. Whereas this logo, even though it's kind of maybe is slightly boring, for me works very well. Continental Airlines. Why? Well, you can read it really well. It's not boring in the sense that it's not left justified. It's right justified, so you get a feeling of movement. This right here moves your eye, Continental, into the airlines. Also, this gives you a diagonal, this worldwide movement, this symbol that means going all around the globe, and we understand it immediately to be flight paths or moving around a space, which is the globe. Blue is a color of solidity, calm, and trustworthiness. And it's not a weird diagonal. Even though it's at a diagonal and energetic and shows movement, they've put it in a square. Why would they bother to do that? Because the square is the most stable feeling shape. It feels solid and dependable. And do you want to fly with someone who's not solid and dependable with some off-kilter, crazy movement all over the place? You want your life to be in the hands of people who feel safe, stable, and dependable. But you want movement to make it visually interesting. So there's a feeling of all that going on here for an airline. It's very important that they didn't do something going crazily all over the place, because that's not the kind of image they want to communicate, right? So in a lot of logos, you get the brand mark, the graphic part of the logo, a simplified form, an icon of some sort. Apple Computers, Nike, what is that one? Worldwide Wildlife Federation, Disney, Windows. You get the idea. And then you have the name or the letters over here. And usually a lot of times they're mixed together a bit. AT&T, Domino's, Worldwide Communications, there's stuff going together. With that, this comes into the idea we brought in last time and the project you were doing for simplification. How much do you need to have it be legible or its connection still there, right? You were doing how much detail do you need? You're doing a whole project on this, and it ties directly into this logo project, because if you try to draw a logo like this guy, this is from Understanding Comics, you wouldn't believe in him, but when he's like this, it's a simple style. I'll say you wouldn't believe him is the wrong way of saying it. He would be so specific that you couldn't project yourself into the imagery of the person. If he's like this, then he's simple style. You feel like you can connect to him as a lot of different people, right? Well, same with the simplified logos. You want things that are iconic. If they're too specific, then it gets funny. And so I want you to watch that documentary TED Talk from Christopher Nyman, and at the end of this, I'll have a link, and I have a page that has a link. I want you to watch it because he talks about how much information you need in something, how much you can take away to have it still be something that's not too detailed, too specific, and maybe he uses an example of a arrow through a heart. If you had it like super realistic, it'd be really gross. If you just had a box with a red line through it, you wouldn't be able to tell what it is. So you have to find that middle ground. This is what we're talking about in that document I had you guys read about icons and symbols. I had you guys read that for your last project. If you didn't read that document, you're definitely going to want to read it because it'll help you with this. So what is the assignment? To design your own personal trademark or logo. The purpose of it is to engage the design process and to begin learning about the language and skills of design. You're going to use unlined white paper for the introductory steps, Bristol board for the final. I do that so it would be nice if you show it, but if you don't end up using Bristol board, I'm not going to be mad about that. That's just the nicest paper for it. If you don't have it available, COVID-19, go out and get it, that's fine. But use something that you can use ink on without it getting really fuzzy, blurry, and messed up. You're going to want to have pencil eraser, micron pen. If you have big areas of black, you may want to use ink and a brush or different types of styles of inking. That's up to you. It has to be 8 by 10 or larger. What do I mean? I do not mean the piece of paper being 8 by 10. Okay? I do not mean, okay, my logo fits on an 8 by 10 piece of paper. It's fine. No. I mean, you're going to have to work on a larger piece of paper than a lined 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, because I want the paper to be as big as you need it to be, but the logo to be 8 by 10. It's not centered in there very well. You want to center it on the page, right? Haha, funny. The logo to be 8 by 10. And you say, well, what do you mean 8 by 10? Well, from the furthest point out to the other furthest point out, roughly 8 by 10. If it doesn't match, it can be bigger than that. If it's like, oh, well, mine's a square, it can't be 8 by 10, well, then make it 10 by 10 and actually have the whole thing be even bigger. Point is, I don't want you to have a page with some tiny little drawing on it, and that's your logo. It needs to be substantially made and work and be something that's working really well. Why big? Well, because then you can actually draw the detail you're going to need. It has to include symbols and letter or words. This could be a symbol or an icon, but it has to have some kind of pictorial element. Going back here, to this page, there is a lot of things. What I'm saying is you can't just have the ears, you have to have Disney with it. You can have the app, you can have this, but it needs to have Apple as well. This one is on the edge because it's a V and W. These all work, of course. You can't just have the Shell, you have to have Shell gasoline or something with it, okay? Also, you're saying, well, I just want to do one that has only type. No, you have to have some sort of little thing. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it has to have some sort of dynamic to it that's like a brand mark. Here's Disney's writing, there's your brand mark, okay? You have to have something else beyond just the writing as well. So, do the questionnaire defining your brief. That's the one on there, on the module. What's your favorite thing? Your initials, nicknames, list some things you like, favorite place or memory, what do you want to do as a profession? Okay? A word association, brainstorming activity. That's where you do this right here. Thought bubbles. All these documents are on your module. 10 thumbnails, very minimum. 3 refined thumbnails, that's like I showed you. Redraw a small version but way more detail of one of these. You could do 3 of the same one. This is a very, very bare minimum. You really need more than this to do this project well. I just have to do a minimum, otherwise people do one of each and then finish it off. You really need to spend some time on it. Pick one of them and do at least 3 full-size roofs. That's also a minimum. You can really do 4 or 5 or more. And then the final logo, you ink it. Okay? Here's some different assignments students have done. This one was for someone who their last name or first name was something Angelica or something like that. Groovy Jelly. They also have a pig because that's their favorite animal, but it was kind of meant to be a little bit of a stoned out pig. I think their idea was actually about selling edibles. They have a yin and a yang back behind. I don't think that totally works as well because it makes it confusing about the ear. But I think it was good to have something behind. Maybe it's a little too specific, but it's working pretty well. And I think right here, this is all working pretty nice. This person wanted to be a car designer or tester. So they did it with the wheel going into mountains. Ruthless. I think the typography is the thing that's messing up this the most. And these lines are supposed to be like movement. I think they needed to be more intense movement and the wording a lot bigger and more dark. So it took up more of the space. But it's good. It's looking pretty good in certain ways. This one's pretty nice. The person's name began with M. They want to sell herbs, plants, and crafts. And so it has a kind of feeling of the type of pottery they wanted to sell and kind of a lot of the details. I think it might be almost too detailed, but nonetheless, it works pretty good. This person wanted to be a cosmetologist, so these are their initials and the tools of the trade. It's a little bit obvious, so to speak, but it works pretty well across. It's dynamic. The main thing with this is see how the circle's not circular. You needed to get a compass and get it really circle, or you could use it on a real basic level, a piece of string and hold your pencil and get it to be circular. I like this one quite a lot. It turned out pretty good. This person wants to be an interior designer. The typography is actually a little small and maybe needed to be all the way over here. If you think about it, they could have taken up way more of the space in here and still had it work, and it would have been fine. So it could have been a little bigger, especially this down here. What's working about it is really nicely is that this type of feeling of the plant life that they want to feature things that are living inside the spaces mixed with something that's very much engaging and dynamic with a triangular sort of feeling, like the back of canvases, and also the pitch of a roof. the way in which a roof is made, so it's like the interior of things. I think they might have been better off doing the triangle this way, though, and making their wording a little bigger, because then it would feel more like a home, and this could break into it. But it's very dynamic and interesting. This guy wanted to be a illustrator slash cartoonist slash animator, and this was his nickname, I believe, as a kid. Productions. I like it because he picked a really strong style that matched kind of what he wanted to do illustration wise and with his production company. So it has a feeling, it's got an adventure feel. He's got the pencil as a spear. It's got sort of maybe a tribal feel or kind of interesting kind of vibe that he would be into. This person wanted to be a nurse, so they have the kind of feeling of a nurse. RN, their name. It's a good logo. I like all the cross hatching. This is the medical symbol. It's working pretty well. It's very clean. I like this one colored a lot as a interior design because it's kind of taking that window and the roof type of idea, pushing it, and then they have their name of their company. The only thing maybe is this interior design could have get a little bit more space from the edge. That way we kind of can tell it's move it over a tiny bit more so it doesn't quite blend in as much with the middle of the window. And then this is a really interesting sun type of form. Works good because it's giving them their feeling or their vibe that they're going for with their design. So if you think about in comparison to this one, that you have a very different vibe, albeit the same type of business going on here. And that's good. It's good to have that personality coming through. It gives a feeling of a sun, but also the sunflower, all different types of maybe a design aesthetic. This is good. Mary Alvarez looks really nice. Typography. It's her favorite flower, I believe. There's a couple other things about it. But it has a really clean typography, clean aesthetic, and has kind of a whimsical quality. This one's really nice. Comics. The picture wasn't super great. I got shadow on there. But very interesting, kind of gives you a vintage feel of comics. The mouth and the teeth, his line work is really great. I think one thing is this big oval over here does not feel as necessary, and there's maybe a way in which this comics could have been tied into this more in some way. Maybe a smaller oval, maybe a little thicker, maybe here on a banner, something that the space feels very empty, and this feels more like it without this big circle. So that's something that maybe could have been worked out a little bit more, but really good project. This one's about, the type of style of animation they want to do. I believe this person was really into Harry Potter fantasy type of stuff, and the owl is featured in that a lot, and so there's kind of an iconography there for them, personal iconography, mixed in with really simple kind of line work, but it works really well. It's really nice. The Brave fits in. The two different types of typography work pretty well because it kind of breaks up Brave Owl from animation. Maybe this could be also upper lowercase, but it works nice because there's sentence case and uppercase here. The spacing here bothers me a little bit. Drop it down and make it a little more even. What you would do is put a guideline in when they did it. Use a light line. In pencil that you erase. You set it all up. Your height is called your X height, the height of your letters being the same across, and you set up what's the space in between called the leading, and they don't have it even, so that if they set it up properly, that would help a little bit. And then also how much space in between here is called kerning, and you have to play with that type of stuff in typography. If you guys have more questions about typography, I'll post a video about it in this section. It'll help basics about it, but you got to kind of think about the type of writing you're doing in these things. Okay, You have here someone's inventing their own type. It's very flowy and cursive, very clean in different way here. See all the different ones, they use different types of typography. They had, some of them had um, sans serif, which means nothing on there. Some of them had serif, which is this type of type. Different things. So you want to really think about those type of dynamics. This is an interesting logo. I like it. The kind of funness of a drive-in. Maybe a little too specific with the characters, but all nonetheless, because you'd be kind of expensive to print maybe or something like that. Could have dropped it down a little bit more, but it's pretty nice. The dynamic of the movement of diagonals is very nice, and the way that you kind of move throughout the space. Maybe this could have been up just a little bit and helped us draw back in here and just a little bit down to help us keep our eye on it. I'm not sure about the all black in here and then that. It's working pretty well to have thin and thick, but maybe these need to be more outlined. I don't know. So that would have been something to kind of consider. This is that Christopher Nyman TED Talk, fluent in a language you don't even know. It's about pictures and that you're way more fluent in how people read them. I have the link on a page in the module that you want to read, that you want to watch. Look at it and watch that. And then also, like I said, I'm going to post a video about typography you're going to want to watch. But you're going to want to get started on this right away. It's going to take some time. If you turn in something you bashed out in 10 seconds like that, I'll be able to tell. Even if it's simple, I'll be able to tell how much work you, because you're going to turn in all your work. Okay? You're going to turn in your final and also the steps. You have to take pictures of the steps and turn them in, so I know what you've been doing. Okay? And some of these I'm going to require you, I already did put it in their discussion group. You're going to be required to post these things in the discussion board. You're going to be required to post full-size roughs in there and comment on other people's work so that you actually really engage it and think about it and get people's feedback on if it's working or not. So I'll know if you're doing that. I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm trying to help you guys stay on track here and do some good work, which I know you can do because you've been doing good work so far. All right, so I hope you're staying well out there. Take care, guys. And if you have any questions, please message and get your questions answered. Okay? Talk to you later.